The original Fallout game holds a special place in my heart, and my audience thought it might be a good place to start with this series. The first Fallout game starts with us exiting Vault 13 and into the rat-infested caves out front. I always thought as a kid that, like, it was really terrible to get killed by rats over and over again, and I couldn't imagine what else could be out there that was much stronger than rats. But then once you figure it out, it's all right. We end up going over to Shady Sands, which would eventually become NCR, but we're jumping ahead there. Eredish is upset about some rad scorpions in a cave somewhere. The town's in a tussle about it. So we go and take care of the rad scorpions. When you eventually, you can turn that quest in and do a few things around Shady Sands, but eventually when you come, like if you go to Vault 15 maybe, now we're over there, go down to Vault 15 and find out that the water chip isn't there. Big surprise. But if we manage to hit Shady Sands on the way back, we can find that Tandy has been kidnapped by raiders, by the Khans. Going to the Khans, I know a funny way to defeat this quest, and I believe it's with the use of metal armor, and you might have to pass a charisma check, but you can pretend to be Garl, the leader of the Khans. You can be, I'm pretty sure it's his dead father, as like a ghost, and he gets all freaked out and like, you know, listens to you. But every time I've ever gone in there with the build that I use, I normally am just like, hey, you know, let her go, and then they do. So it's usually not too hard. Bring Tandy back to Shady Sands. Eredish is appreciative, and you know, that's always the first part of every playthrough with the original Fallout. I usually end up in Junktown after this, where I attempt to settle the dispute between Killian and Gizmo. What usually happens, well actually the first thing that happens is I go find Doc Morbid and talk to his helper in the basement there, his assistant, and find out that Bob's iguanas is people's, and when we find that out, we can extort Bob when we get to the hub. But this ends up in a firefight with Doc Morbid and his cronies. Isn't it Flash and Cougar? Am I wrong? Might be wrong about that, or I might be right. Who knows? I'm sure you will in the comments. But so anyway, after that, you end up going into Killian's store. And he introduces, hey, I'm MacGyver, how's it going? And you're like, pretty good, man. And then somebody comes in and tries to shoot him, and you win that firefight as well. Killian is almost certain that Gizmo has set this up. It's written on the walls. I feel like the assassin yells Gizmo sends his regards, so it's pretty cut and dry on who set this up. And Killian wants to finish that, so we end up accepting the job. I have never done it the other way. I've never sided with Gizmo in my entire life. I've never played through that, actually, now that I think about it. In the quarter century that Fallout has been with us and that I have been playing it, I have never in my life sided with Gizmo. But what happens is you take the recording device from Killian, you go talk to Gizmo, get him to say, yeah, I want him dead, because he's a dick. You're like, all right, man. And so you go show that to Killian. Killian's like, I fucking knew it. And so you go and you fight Gizmo, you take him out. There's other things to do there involving that shit up north. I feel like, I hope I'm not like confusing it with Fallout 2, but isn't there like that mole rat boxing, some kind of boxing situation with like mole rats and rad scorpions or some shit, and then there's the bar, and I think the urn with the skulls. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, I actually don't do those quests very much. I usually just stick to Doc Morbid and the Killian quest line. And then I'm usually off to the hub. You can either do that or go to the Brotherhood. I mean, you can do whatever you want. That's the beauty of Fallout. But I usually end up in the hub. And there's a ton of shit to do in the hub now that I think about it. But the main things that I will focus on is when we finally hear about the deathclaw because of the missing caravans. There's a lot of people convinced that the deathclaw is the one taking the caravans or getting the people on them. So we start to hear about that. We start to hear about the legend that is the deathclaw. And we meet Harold through this. One of my favorite characters in the Fallout series. We see him a ton moving forward, for better or worse. But here he is in all his glory. And, he doesn't really understand why anybody would want to go looking for that thing. But then rambling appears to be, just a guy suffering his own demons outside, rambling to himself. It turns out he has some information about how to get to the Deathclaw. We end up fighting it. And when I talked to Tim Kaine, something that I always end up forgetting is that the Fallout implies that was just the baby that we take care of in that cave. But we also find out that the mutants are the ones taking the caravans and doing what they will with them. But Fallout does a really good job of... And you run into a couple of Deathclaws later on if you explore the Boneyard and go up to the Gunrunners and things of that nature. But the game does a really good job of selling this urban legend of the Deathclaw, and it makes it this mythical creature that I feel like it should be. The way the new games handle it is fine, but you really get that sense of this thing's gonna be something crazy when you're playing the first Fallout game. I just realized that I forgot to explain the entire reason why we left Vault 13 in the first place. The water chip inside the vault is malfunctioning, no longer works, or is gone. I forget exactly what scenario. I'm pretty sure it's broken, but when Jackarin's talking to you, when the Overseer's talking to you at the beginning, he's like, our water purification chip system or whatever has given up the ghost, which implies that maybe it's not there. Fallout 2 also implies that, I guess Fallout 2 implies that the Chosen One broke it through a special encounter, but those aren't usually considered canon, so most people ignore that as actual lore. Jumping ahead of myself, though, let's just assume that it's broken. And because it's broken, there's not going to be any more drinking water. That's a big problem. So everybody is upset about that. And I forget the exact method of choosing who leaves the vault. I don't know if they draw straws or what the deal is. But I forget completely if there is some kind of lore reason behind who's chosen to leave the vault. It might just be that you're the most capable and most willing. Regardless, we end up leaving the vault to go search for the water purification chip for Vault 13. That's the quest that we're on. The hub still has quite a few things to do, and it really depends on if you want to do them. I myself never really do the Thieves Guild quest. I'm pretty sure that's at the hub, underground in the hub or something like that. I never really do that one. I've done it once or twice. But typically, I will go and do the Decker quests at the Maltese Falcon, and then turn him in at the end and fight him. And feel like that kind of just cancels out all the shitty things that I did. So there we go. I took him out, so therefore, I was just undercover the whole time. Whatever you want to do with it. I usually just end up going to the Brotherhood, though. Out of all the times that we see the Brotherhood in the Fallout series, this has to be among my favorites because it feels, obviously it feels true to what the Brotherhood is. This is the first time we see them, therefore this is what they are. But in Fallout 2, they're kind of in hiding, much like we see in New Vegas, but much more severe. We only see a hint of them, but we know that they're there. Regardless, this Brotherhood is so anti-people from the outside even talking to them, that they send the Vault Dweller on what they assume is a mission nobody will be able to come back alive from, which is going to the Glow, Westech, and it was hit directly with an atomic bomb. So it's just a big fucking crater in the ground, and you have to bring ropes and shit that you don't even think about. You go down there, and you're just getting ratted up unless you prepare by taking Rad-X, and having some Radaway handy just in case. I mean, it's totally survivable if you're just doing that. There's a whole big Doom reference at Westech where The different colored key cards will open different elevators, and you go through all the floors have different stuff going on. Is Zach's down there? So it's like supercomputers down there, and you can, I'm pretty sure, die by radiation poisoning if you try to play chess with it too much, because you spend too much time down there and you just fucking burn up from radiation poison. Anyway, it's quite the crazy area, but if you're just going there for the Brotherhood quest, it's totally survivable. You just grab a holotape off of Dead Soldier, and you get the hell out of there. Go back to the Brotherhood. They're totally flabbergasted that somebody has made it back, so now you can go in and interact with the Brotherhood, talk to Maxon, talk to Vree. Talking to Vree is important because she's going to be the one that lets you know that the Master's plan is totally not doable, and she'll give you a holotape that has proof that it's not doable. That's going to be needed if you're trying to not fight the Master at the end of the game and try to convince him that his plan will not succeed. The great city of Necropolis is usually another good stop after such events. So heading that direction, that's where we're going to find the water chip. And if you play your cards right and actually get there fast enough, it hasn't been taken by mutants yet. There's a whole big to-do there where you can help Necropolis and fix their water pump and get the water chip right. Or you can just walk up in there and grab the water chip out of the vault, kill any ghouls in your way, and then, back to Vault 13, water chip. But then here comes Overseer Jackarin with some troubling news. The mutants exist, and he sees that in your reports, and he's like, what the hell's going on with these? And the Master, what's all that about? And you're like, I know, right? So he's like, you gotta figure that out, because they're definitely gonna fuck this up for everybody. So, thus is the call of the hero. Once more into the breach, my friend, I believe is a line you can even say during this part of Fallout when you're talking to the Overseer. Anyway, the only, there's some other stuff. Like, obviously, I feel like I haven't, gone over every little thing you can do here. I'm just recounting how my playthroughs usually go. But typically, you would want to just head to Mariposa, the military base, and get some shit going. If you get caught right out front, they'll bring you to the lieutenant. The lieutenant is a bad dude. He does not take kindly to you being there. He wants to dip you in the vats to turn you into a mutant. That is literally the only thing that he cares about in his entire existence. He fucking he'll rock you around. He'll be like, "Hey, I'm not doing none of that," and he'll be like, "Oh, all right," and then he'll bop you a good one. He really has contempt for the Vault Dweller, in my opinion. So after he's like, you fucking blue suit wearing piece of shit, you can run away from him instead of getting hit. And if you do that and you know which sequence to press on the computer, and I always forget it, you can hack the computer with your science skill to like have it list it better. Because if you trip the alarm, shit sucks. And if you have the self-destruct on the military base too low, shit really sucks. So you got it. There's one that's like 3 minutes or something like that, 300 seconds. I don't know. It's something crazy. You want the highest amount with no alert, but it can be quite an adventure getting out of Mariposa. But once you do, the base explodes. Mission accomplished on that front, but we still have to deal with the Master. If you go to the hub and you did the Decker missions like I do, you can loot the cathedral in the hub where Jane is. You can loot an area that will give you a purple robe and some other things that'll come in handy. And with that purple robe, if you wear it at the cathedral, you're not going to get... I always like to leave my companions, if I have any companion. I haven't even mentioned any of the companions. Ian's like my favorite companion in all of Fallout. He's pretty cool, and he'll wreck you with his weapons. But regardless of how cool Ian is, or Dogmeat, or any of them, you can find Dogmeat in Junktown. We totally glossed over that, like the most iconic thing in Fallout. Dogmeat is in Junktown. He's pretty cool. If you wear a leather jacket, you can get him immediately, and he'll follow you until he can't anymore, because that's just the way he works, and I like that about him. But regardless, we're gearing up to enter the cathedral. If you put on some purple robes, the Nightkin won't shoot at you. You can go talk to Morpheus. Morpheus is like, beast man. And then you fucking go to the master. Tell the master, hey, dude, this shit's not going to work. And he's like, explain yourself, elaborate. And you do. And if you did like I told you, then I hope that you did, and you have the holotape from Vree, and you're like, this shit isn't going to work. Look at this. He will say, you're right. What have I done? After this self-reflection, he initiates a self-destruct on the cathedral. Once you leave the map cell of the cathedral, if the timer doesn't count down, you got to get out of there in a decently fast pace. You don't want to take your time. You get out of the cathedral and it blows up. So you're like, fuck yeah. Both missions, all 3 missions complete. Not only did I get the water chip for the vault, but I also destroyed the mutant breeding ground of the vats inside Mariposa and where they were coming from, and their main base of operations in this area. And not only that, but I got the leader of the entire thing, the guy orchestrating this entire mess, to admit that the plan wasn't going to work and blow himself up. So, shit, that's pretty good. And you go back to the overseer and you're like, look at that. And he's like, yeah, it's pretty good, but, God, I'm going to have to send you on the old dusty trail. And the reasoning behind it is other people will look up to you and want to leave as well. Wouldn't want that. So get the fuck out of here. And those of when I was talking to Tim Kaine, he said something about having bad karma also working, and I'm pretty sure that's the case. But if you have bad karma and or the bloody mess perk, or if you can hit A fast enough to open up combat, so there's a few ways to do it. You can blast the overseer in one of the most ridiculous death animations that exists in the game. And then you just walk off into the sunset, never to be seen again. But that's not the case, because, well, I guess never to be seen again. Because we hear about Arroyo being built. Fallout 2 takes place in Arroyo, which was, obviously established by the Vault Dweller, but they are nowhere to be seen in Fallout 2, so never to be seen again. And that is, from my memory, the lore of Fallout. I know I left some things out, and I know that lore is complicated, but I'm pretty sure I covered the main bases. Let me know what game you would like to hear me ramble through next time on Stoned Lore.